Good morning, everybody. What up, YouTube Live? This is yours truly, Rama Screen, covering movies, TV, and entertainment. And of course, the TV part is included in that shows that are on streaming services, such as this one, DC Universe, DC's digital streaming service. So I'm here to give you my live stream review of today's new episode of Doom Patrol series. I love this show. This show is so badass. Um, and this is season one, episode three. The title is Puppet Patrol. Just like with all my episode recaps and my TV reviews, this too contains spoilers. So heads up, spoiler alert. Okay, you've been warned. I'll be spilling some spoilers here. This review is mainly for those of you, my fellow DC Universe fans, who have also already watched today's new episode. Okay, so last week we saw the whole donkey patrol thing going on, right? The donkey was the portal, and then we got to see Mr. Nobody messing with the heads of Cyborg, Rita Farr, and Larry Trainer. And in this episode, we get to see more of Larry Trainer. So basically, what happens here, to give you context, um, they find this photo of this donkey in Paraguay in the 1930s, I believe. So that propels our team of misfit heroes to go on a road trip to Paraguay. Uh, and Cyborg wanted to take the jet. He wants to take the jet, the Star Labs jet, but his dad's like, "Hey, you're not getting Star Labs credit card to do you anything. You got to figure things out on your own. This is your mission. I told you not to like pursue it." So they go on the bus, the iconic Doom Patrol bus, and man, I look. Here's the thing: I've done road trip across United States many times before. A couple of times with my family members, and several times on my own because for work. And it is a different feeling doing road trip by yourself compared to doing road trip with a bunch of people, because if you stay in one car with them long enough, you will as a group you will get on each other's nerves. You will get like there will come a point during your travel when it's all just bickering and arguing, and it's like I can't stand another day seeing your ugly face, that kind of thing. But you're stuck with them, and that's what's frustrating. um it's the writers of this show are so smart in that, in the sequences of their road trip and the things that happen. It's not, because they switch driver seats, right? So they picture Rita Farr as the grandma driver who drives really really slow, and then Crazy Jane's like, I can't stand it. I need to get out. I want to kill myself. And so they're trying to prevent her from going out the window, and there's all kinds of chaos happening. That one sequence of montage, if you will, it's hilarious. It's one of my favorite parts, or the highlight of this episode. um so they go to the motel. um Rita seems to drag on, like there's something that is keeping her from wanting to pursue, or to go on this mission and find Dr. Niles. um so what happens is that Crazy Jane, one of her personalities, she has 64 personalities. Turns out that one of her personalities has this teleportation powers, and she teleports Robot Man and Larry Trainer to, I think, Paraguay, right? Paraguay, 1930s. And they meet this Asian guy who is excited about Fuktopia. um, and they go to this place where there's a hand puppet show that reveals the origin story of Mr. Nobody, and it's revealed in this whole puppet show that uh, Niles Chief is the one who interrupts the Nazi Doctor Fuchs from his experimentation on Mr. Nobody, or so if suggesting that if Chief or Niles had not interrupted, who knew what would have happened to that experiment on Mr. Nobody? He could have been even more powerful or more dangerous than what he already is right now. Um, and then it's revealed that the Nazi Doctor Fuchs is still alive, but he's operated by the guy wheeling him, and it's like one of it's he's stuck in this box that looks like one of those if you go to a carnival and you see like a psychic robot doll is stuck behind the glass. That's what it looks like to me. I was like you could put a quarter in and have him predict your future. um and in this part he interacts a lot with Crazy Jane because he is interested in Crazy Jane's 64 personalities. uh in the meantime, the other arc in this episode involves, as I said, Larry Trainer. So we get to see more of actor Matt Bomer as Larry Trainer, even though, of course, we still have the other actors that play the body performance or the movements for Negative Man and Robot Man. They're still there, and Brendan Fraser and Matt Bomer still do the voiceover part. But in this time, in this episode, we get to see more of Matt Bomer as well because we get to see flashbacks of him back in the day when he still has his face. So that's where Matt Bomer comes in, and then we also see the flashbacks of the aftermath after that whole encounter with the radio field up in the sky, and then he crashes, and then he's stuck in the hospital, and his radioactive power causes everybody around him, the nurses and the doctors, to die. So he's pretty much he's pretty much stuck there. He has to stay there, and this aspect of the story of Larry Trainer provides for some of the drama, the heartfelt moments with regards to the thing that he wrestles inside him, which is the fact that he's gay, but he's married to a woman. So we see how his wife, like, what are we doing here? We're playing pretend. We're not happy. Um, and then the boyfriend is like, "Hey, come with me. Like, I'm signing out to somewhere else." Like, but Larry's like, "No, this is my career." And so this wrestle that he has, in the midst of both those characters, is fascinating. It's a fascinating facet of this episode. Um, so that's the context. Those are the two story arcs in this episode. Um, I have a few notes here before I conclude my review. I love how because Crazy Jane and Larry Trainer get put front and center in this episode. They get to be the sort of like the lead star of this episode. Um, Robot Man is relegated to being a comic relief just for this episode, which is fine because he cracks me up too. In addition to the whole road trip montage sequence, there are some comments that he made, I think, regarding the donkey, and he also has the keys at one point. And when he fights those Nazis, those Nazis in the hallway, my God, he literally like rips one person's body in half, and then holds the legs, with the torso, and then like slams another person with that torso. It's just like, wow. And in other shows, right, in other superhero shows that are not TVMA, because obviously this is like, if you were to give it a rating, it's probably TVMA. In other shows, that scene where Robot Man fights the Nazis in the hallway, and then I don't know, throws the body or slams the face into a wall. And what would happen in those other shows would be probably you will see the heads slamming into the wall, and the walls, like the bricks, will like fall apart, and that's it. But of course, this is not other shows. This is DC Universe. They actually push the envelope. They actually show graphic violence. So whenever Robot Man does that to those Nazis, you see just like blood splattering. Like even I think even like at one point he just punches one guy in the face, but there has to be blood coming out of that head for some reason. You can argue like, well, Rama, because he's made of metal, so that blunt force trauma must be really really hard that you actually bleed out. Or so I get it, I get it. It's really really over the top violent, and I enjoyed it. Crazy Jane also gets to fight some Nazis as well. And here's the thing with Crazy Jane in this one, she seems kind of controlled. I know at the end of the episode, she writes like control is a weapon by fascists. Um, but what I mean by control is that she's not like, she doesn't have her 64 personalities like keeps taking over her like every other 5 seconds. You know what I'm saying? In this episode, it seems like she has a handle of her and her many 64 personality friends. And she tells Larry Trainer at one point, like, because Larry asks, like, how do you control? Because Larry only has one problem, one entity, and that always like bugs him. This radioactive thing. So he's like, how do you control it? And Crazy Jen's like, well, I'm paraphrasing, of course, like, well, you keep condescending him. And that's not gonna work. So it seems like Crazy Jane may have uh, struck an agreement with the rest of her 64 personalities. She doesn't necessarily control them, but it seems like they have an understanding of each other. I know that sounds weird, but in this episode, it seems like they and her, Jane, have an understanding as to like, okay, we gotta let Jane, steer the wheel. She's the pilot, and then we come when needed, like when one of them has to like burn that whole lab down at the end, or when one of them has to fight the Nazis, right? That power with the she speaks her words, and the words becomes like sharp weapon. So and that's cool. That's cool. But if you ask me, Crazy Jane not getting a handle of her powers is more interesting than Crazy Jane pretty much has it figured out. It's a more interesting watch, at least. It's like, oh, I can't do it. Like, no, because that provides her drama. Um, but yeah, but that interaction with the Nazi doctor is funny. The puppet, oh my god, the puppet is hilarious. I'm not a fan of puppet shows, but this one is just funny. It's especially because Alan Tudyk, right, is the one that voice. No, is it Alan who voices? No, it's Doctor Fuchs that voices it. But it's funny because this is like 3 hours later, and you see the Asian guy is the only person interested. He's still interested in watching it. That Asian dude, I didn't catch his name. I apologize. He turns into a creature as well at the end, but he behaves like he's at Disneyland or something, right? He's like, "Whoa, my God, this is the happiest. This is Magic Kingdom." Of course, when the Nazi symbols kind of flash on the puppet show, he like kind of he's taken aback a little bit. Oh, this is not in the brochure. But once he gets past that, he goes back to his like giddy, childlike self, like, oh my god, yes. Fooktopia. Funny. Um, so my last note is regarding Larry Trainer. I'm a big fan of Matt Bomer ever since that White Collar series. Do you remember that White Collar series? And I believe Matt Bomer also auditioned for Man of Steel, but didn't get the role. That role went to Henry Cavill, who played Superman. Um, but he's a fantastic actor. I've been a big fan of his for quite some time. And in this episode, we get to see him um, do what he's paid to do. Basically, usually he's just like Robot Man, like Brendan Fraser. Oftentimes they just do voiceover, and then the other actors will do the movements. But in this one, we get to actually see Matt Bomer act, perform. And I think that's probably, I'm guessing that's probably a relief for him. It's like, oh man, yes, I'm Matt Bomer, the actor, and I'm doing this. And the arc, his story, as I said earlier, is this wrestle, because it's caught in the middle of this, two characters, his wife, unhappy and estranged, and his boyfriend, who he keeps secret about. And the boyfriend has his own ambition that doesn't really align with his. So very complex, not one dimensional by any stretch of imagination. I think the writers of this episode done a good job of giving Matt Bomer a pretty solid, challenging part to tackle for this episode. And the whole thing with the wife, when the wife says goodbye over the PA, man, it's what I'm trying to say is that, like, it's really profound. That's the word I'm looking for. The profound, when Larry Trainer says, "Hey, I can change," and she's like, "We know that you and I deserve better." And it's it's fascinating because I think that's the 50s or the 60s. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's in an era where being homosexual or being gay is not so accepted by society. So for him to suggest, like, I can change, I can suppress this, or suggesting that I can play house with you, again, I'll get better, we'll come back with our kids, and with her saying, no, you can't change, you got to be you, I got to be me, and we're not happy. um it's pretty profound, in my opinion. I think it goes to show to it shows to Larry Trainer still being afraid to embrace who he is, and his identity, his sexual orientation, putting aside his being, this with the radioactive field in him. But it's like, oh, I can change, I don't have to, just, it's as if that his career, his future, is put on a higher priority list, as opposed to being happy with who he is, with just being a gay man, openly gay man. But yeah, but that says a lot. It's not a criticism. I'm just saying, it's like, it says a lot about the pressure of the society in that era, I can imagine. And for somebody like Larry Trainer to, like, oh, I can change, I can continue playing house with you. So it's this episode is a solid, really engaging, and I I have my attention fixed to Larry Trainer's drama, especially when he's in that bunker, if you will, and he gets separated from his radioactive field entity. And the radioactive field is like, no, you can't get out of this place. And it's like, no, we're separated now. Get out of my way. Let's just part ways, and you go on your own, and I'll go mine. Um, and then he sees an image of his old boyfriend. I think that part is still to be continued, because it gets interrupted by a robot man. But if you ask me, I would like to see why he sees an image of his boyfriend, and why is it that the radioactive field kind of suggests to Larry, is like, no, we have to stick together, like, you and I are one now. Like, why is that the case? Again, I haven't read Doom Patrol comic books. If you know the answer to that, let me know. But I'm curious. I want to know the continuation of that story, because it kind of leaves us hanging here. Um, the other fear the other fear involves Cyborg and Rita Farr. Rita is afraid. She's still insecure. Like, we're not superheroes. We're not equipped to find Chief. We're not the Justice League. And of course, on top of that, she keeps like turning into Blob every 5 seconds. And Cyborg, his fear is that he needs to prove something to his dad. And because Rita says like, "What? You're a superhero. You can do this on your own. You don't need company." um, and that's when they also bond in that motel. And I think to end this, that is part of what attracts me to this show, is that the characters are not just flawed, but they are super super effed up flawed, even more so than the other protagonists that you've come across on superhero shows, um, because each of them is very very insecure. Each of them has this doubt and this past that hangs over them, and they're still wrestling and struggling to get out of that cloud of doubt, or that cloud of fear or insecurity. And I don't know when that's going to happen, but they're figuring it out together, and at least they're together. So that's the upside of it. And I can't wait for subsequent episodes to reveal more of Larry Trainer. It's good to see Matt Bomer back, man. It's good to see Matt Bomer back. He's a fantastic actor. If you haven't seen White Collar, please check it out. I think it was on USA Network. I'm not sure if it's on Netflix, but check it out if you can. All right. So that's it. That's my review of today's Doom Patrol Season 1, Episode 3, titled Puppet Patrol. Damn, those puppets are hilarious. If you have seen the episode and if you have thoughts about it too, share them. Share the thoughts in the comment section below. I want to hear what you think of today's new episode. And where do you think that the story is gonna go? For the next week. Let me know in the comment section below. As always, subscribe to my channel. Subscribe. Press that like button. Ring that bell. And if you can help support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/ramascreen. Thanks, guys. I have a busy day ahead of me today, so I'm gonna drive back out to Los Angeles. So I'll see you later. Thanks for tuning in. Let's rock this.